Welcome to Access All ARIA as part of ARIA Week, presented by Mitsubishi Motors. I would like to acknowledge the Gadigal of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay my respects to the elders both past and present. We're recording from Sydney for the ARIA Masterclass, featuring the Masters of Management. Hi and welcome, I'm Lars Brandle from Billboard Magazine and the Industry Observer. We're here today to meet the powers behind the performers. I'm talking about the mystery people, the absolute core of the music industry, the unsung heroes, and we're talking about the artist managers. We have five of the best here today, and I would like to introduce them one by one. I'd like to begin with Andrew Stone. Please, Andrew, can you give us 1 minute of your time to explain what it is that you do?
Thanks, Lars. So I'm the head of Chug Music, which is the management company and record label associated with Michael Chug and Chug Entertainment. I also run a label called City Pop Records, and we are fortunate enough to have a few artists nominated for the ARIAs this year. Lion Cordial being one, Casey Barnes, and we also manage acts like Shepherd and Avalanche City and Mia Rodriguez and a few others as well.
Thanks, Andrew. Leon Rogovoy.
So I run a management company called Friends Management, manage DMAs who've been nominated for a few ARIAs this year. We also manage acts like Alice in Wonderland, Crooked Colours, Grace, and a few others. That's kind of it about me.
And you've won a few awards in your time, judging by the wall behind you.
Never won an ARIA, no. But we've had a couple of gold and platinum records over the years.
Well, fingers crossed. Cathy Oates.
My name's Cathy Oates. I have a company called Original Matters that's nearly 15 years old, which I cannot believe. I co-manage Alex the Astronaut with Bill Cullen at One Louder, and we're pretty happy that Alex has been nominated for Breakthrough Artist. It's quite a big thing for Alex and a really good move for her. I've had a few wins with ARIAs with Angus and Julia Stone and Dean Lewis, and we're just really happy that Alex has been nominated.
Fingers crossed. Stephen Collins.
Hey, Lars. So I'm fortunate enough. I manage Maisha Young. First experience with the ARIAs, which is really exciting. She's been nominated for 5, which was huge. We thought 1 might be nice. So, really excited to be a part of this whole process.
Last but not least, Ellen Kirk.
Hello. I am part of the team at Lookout Kid, and I manage Briggs and another artist, Beverly Glenn Copeland. We also look after Courtney Barnett, Sarah Blasco, Seeker Lover Keeper, Eilish Gilligan, Faye Webster, and Middle Kids.
Marvellous. Well, thank you for joining me today. Let's crack on. We've got so much to talk about. This year has been really just brutal. It's been brutal for everyone, particularly in our industry. And we often think about the artists who are crushed by the fact they can't tour. But very few people think about the artist managers, yourselves. I wonder, how have you guys been surviving in this challenging year? What's it been like? Andrew?
I mean, like you said, it's just come out of nowhere, and no one possibly could have predicted it, and that would have the impact that it's had on all of our businesses. But I mean, the arts and the entertainment industries especially have been so deeply affected, I think, across all aspects of the business. But, one of our main revenue streams as an artist management company is the proceeds from live touring and the audience development that we can build from touring live. And that's just had to take a huge step back for this year, and we've had to kind of focus in other areas and make the most of what we can do to reach those audiences domestically and internationally. So in some ways, it's forced us to kind of look in new areas that we wouldn't perhaps put as much of our time and resources. But we've been pretty heavily affected by the lack in revenue, and we've had to find ways to get by, and our artists have had to find ways to get by, and our the teams around our artists. So it's kind of taking it one day, 1 week, 1 month at a time, and hoping that it opens up soon enough to keep everyone employed and the artists on their trajectory forward.
Well, I get a sense that Australia is faring somewhat better than our friends in Europe and America at the moment. But Leon, one of your acts, DMA, is absolutely at the tipping point. It must be so frustrating that touring's been put on ice for so long.
Yeah, it's pretty devastating. Like I was saying to you before, our last show in the UK was our biggest ever show. It was at Brixton Academy in London, and it was an amazing show, and everyone was so pumped after it, and really looking forward to the next tour, which was I think in May, and it was like right around when COVID started kicking off, and everyone's kind of saying, well, it won't last that long. We should be back by May, which obviously hasn't happened. So it's definitely put a massive dent in our plans over there. I think, the earliest we're going to be able to get over is April. And to be honest, I'm not even sure whether that will be able to happen. So we'll have to see.
It's a fluid situation, they say. Fluid,
yeah.
as if it's going to move in one direction. We really don't know what's going to happen. But I guess we are trying to always look for some positives. And one of the positives might be that the pandemic does create some opportunities for Australian artists to perform in Australia and to take those spots which might otherwise be available only for top international acts.
Yeah.
So that's potentially something we're looking for at the next part of, at least for the months ahead. Yeah,
for sure. And we actually had that on the weekend with DMAs, and Shepherd also played the AFL Grand Final. And I think it was one of those things that if it was a regular year, they definitely would have had internationals in there. So that was definitely a big opportunity for us.
Yeah, that was huge. Andrew, you must have enjoyed watching that.
I wish we could have gone up and seen it in person. It would have been nice to have tickets to the grand final as well, but just blown away with that performance from all the acts that played. But yeah, really special time.
Cathy, 15 years in this industry, and we're at near the end of 2020. It's just been such a challenge. How have you been coping this year?
It's actually 30 years in the industry, but I don't know if I should emphasize that.
30 years, but who's counting?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's expand this a little bit. You spend your career looking after artists, but who's looking after you?
Yeah, I think that's always a tough question. And our natural way is to make sure the artists are all okay. And I get a lot of support from other managers. I think that's where the most support comes from, because we all kind of really understand what each other's going through. I have to say my artists have all been really understanding, and I guess we've all just done what we've needed to do, maybe laid low in certain circumstances, and got through it together, really. So I've been quite lucky in with each of my artists, and just checking in with each of them. But yeah, I mean, the thing is with managers, there is no money coming in, and it's been frantic. I think that's been the hardest thing to get your head around. It's been really, really busy, probably the busiest we've ever been, but sort of stuck inside with no income or knowing when you're going to get income. So that's an interesting situation.
Ellen, how have you been this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty interesting. I actually had moved to London in March last year, and had come back to Australia in late February and was planning to go to South by and never left Australia. So it's kind of been weird helping support all of our artists to get through that first initial period of change when things were really unknown and who knows where it was going to go, and then also having just some of my own stuff going on, which I think has been really nice to have, the opportunity to expand the relationships with each of our artists in that way, where we talk more about what's going on from everyone's perspective, and it's not just everyone's checking in on each other, which has been really nice.
And one of your artists, of course, Courtney Barnett, is very much an international star in the UK in particular. She can play and fill the Brixton Academy, and I've heard her spoken of in Bob Dylan-esque terms in the UK. So it must be very hard to have your clients sort of laid low during this pandemic.
Yeah, it's been interesting, and just trying to find ways to keep each of the artists engaged in different activities, whether that's looking at more songwriting at this time or, as you were saying, the year of the pivot, looking at other types of activities that each of our artists can do to bring in whatever money is out there and to just keep them engaged in what they're doing and what they want to keep doing to share their music. I
wonder, as artist managers, I get a sense that there is a collegiate atmosphere amongst you all. You do tend to speak together and learn from one another. And I saw something very interesting, Andrew, the other day. You had a golf event with some other artist managers. How did that come about, and what came from it?
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be on social media, but it was kind of like Luke Gerges from Rolling Stone, the Industry Observer, and Bragg. He invited me to golf like just after COVID hit, and neither of us were any good whatsoever. But it was the only activity that we could do to see each other, the only physical activity, outdoor activity. And it just so happened that we started to enjoy it, and other artist managers in Sydney also turned out they like playing golf as well. So it became a social outlet for us. And whereas we'd usually catch up at a show or at an awards night or something like that, every month or so, golf, because of the social distance that's in there for us, became a bit of a hobby. And so it was my birthday last month, and that just was the event that we all decided to go to. But I think given a chance to have a couple of days away and turn the phones off a little bit was fantastic for all of us to just catch up. And of course, like, it was great to talk about labels behind their backs after the games were done. So it was really cool.
So we could actually almost look at that as a positive to come out of COVID. You actually got together and did something healthy, like walk around a golf course for a day.
Yeah, it seems pretty cliche. I don't think any of us ever saw ourselves as being golfers, but it's pretty fun. And it turns out there's a lot of people who really like to play as well. And honestly, like, a bit of exercise, a bit of turning off the phone every now and again, and socializing is a good combination. And I think a lot of people, like, finding those outlets has been a real mental salve for them over this time, whether it's picking up new hobbies or finding ways to connect with friends. And it's just a funny coincidence that we're all into the same kind of thing.
Ellen, have you found this downtime? Have you found some good use in this downtime? Have you found yourself exploring hobbies? And perhaps you talked about songwriting earlier, working with some of your clients, your artists, to craft new music. What have you done in this downtime?
I've actually spent a lot of this downtime cooking and doing some DIY home renos, which has been really nice to try and develop hobbies outside of the music work that we do, because I think obviously as managers we spend so much of our social time going to gigs and doing meetings and all sorts of other events and social activities to do with music. So it's been nice to be like, okay, what else can I do and what else can I learn that is something new and different.
Stephen, I do need to check in with you and check how the past 9 months have been for you.
A pretty fortunate position. Maisha and I and another young girl from her community, a couple of people from her community, we were all in Melbourne for the first stage of lockdown. Fortunately, we got to Queensland and quarantined, and then went back to Woorabinda, her home community. And have pretty much been here since. So really lucky to not get stuck in lockdown in Melbourne for the second time. So things are relatively, since the Aboriginal community went out of lockdown, things have been relatively normal up this way. So yeah, very fortunate. Just kind of, I guess, yeah, Maisha's been able to work on new music and that sort of stuff. And I got into management through, I was doing youth work in community and, you know, worked with Maisha when she was sort of 13, kind of thing, and have known her since. And so I've kind of gone back into a youth work role in community and are kind of focusing on that. So plenty to do. So keeping nice and busy and just, yeah, keeping Maisha stuff ticking along. But yeah, pretty makes it difficult to work from community, just very limited reception and that sort of stuff. We're on like 1 bar of 3G a lot of the time and things. And I'm actually using someone's satellite internet at the moment, and even that's terrible. So just kind of working around
the story of artist management in a nutshell, isn't it? You're always winging it.
Yeah,
artist management, you're always winging it and always juggling.
Yeah.
I guess you're like the master juggler, and you're working across time zones. I wondered, Stephen, what sort of a skill set do you need to have in 2020 as an artist manager?
I think listening is always going to be the most powerful one. Listening and putting the artist first and making sure that any move is the right move for them, that they've got time to process any decisions they're making, especially someone like Maisha coming from such a remote community. It's really important that she's got the time to process kind of this mainstream environment, and, you know, things can move at 100 miles an hour. But for her to feel like she's in control, just giving her that space and that time to process, okay, what does this look like? You know, Maisha had never been pretty much the first ever festival she went to, she was performing at. She only went to her first ever gig in November two years ago, when she'd already basically finished recording her Nyadingu project. That was the first ever proper gig she went to. She went to see Kayit because Kayit's producer, Mo, produced her stuff. So we got her tickets to that. And yeah, so very, very new world for her to step into, and very scary at times for her. But yeah, she was brave enough to make those steps. So yeah, so just listening and making sure that things move at a pace that's appropriate for the artist. I think it's very easy to get caught up in kind of what's hot now and trying to push stuff, but actually respecting the artist, because artist talent isn't going anywhere. But you could certainly, you know, burn them out or push them in a direction where they don't feel like they have artistic control. And that's probably the worst thing you can do for an artist, I feel personally.
Cathy, do you agree with that sentiment that listening is one of the superpowers of being an artist manager in 2020?
Yeah, I really do. I really like that sentiment, because I think Stephen's right. You can get carried away with even sometimes what you want rather than what they want, and it's important to have that conversation with them of really what they want, because in the end it is their life. So, but at the same time, you kind of need to lead the way with them as well. I mean, everyone's different. I don't think there's one answer to that, but yeah, listening is a good one.
Ellen, what are your superpowers as an artist manager?
I mean, I think just going off that, listening is really important so that you can help amplify what the artist is wanting, or, you know, helping them to drive their project. It's not your project or our project as a manager. But in terms of general superpowers, I think we have to have such a broad understanding of how things work as managers, and being able to multitask and get a lot done at any one time has always been something that has been quite helpful for me, because, yeah, there's just always quite a lot going on.
There's this idea that artist managers are on call 24/7. Is that the case? And has that been the case this year?
I think it's definitely changed a little bit in that there's less demand to be on call 24/7, but I work with an artist who's based in Eastern Canada, and so kind of juggling that as well as the clients that I work with here in Australia, there is a different kind of need to be on call 24/7 just because of the time zones. But I think people have, I mean, for us, we've definitely been able to create more structure in a more routine way of working that has definitely changed since COVID.
It's hard to imagine operating as an artist manager prior to email, isn't it? Imagine what a different world that would have been. Andrew, I want to come back. I use that word pivot, and we're going to explore that pivot word now. You've you're an artist manager, certainly, but you've really invested a lot of your time this year into Chug Music and into the recorded side of your business. And I spoke with Chuggy the other day, and it really has been something of a boom year for the label and for Lime Cordiale having a #1 and all of the ARIA nominations. Chuggy said it gave him something to do this year with touring being off. Has it been? Has it? You sort of. I mean, where do you sit with that? Touring is finished for the time being, but you're able to throw all of your energies into something else.
Yeah, it's been really fortunate. I mean, we shopped Lime Cordiale around to every label in Australia, just about, and so we were kind of the last one standing to pick it up and try to make it work. And we're so fortunate now to have believed in the band for 8 years and for them to be at this point where they were selling out really big rooms and to have the album success, in a very hotly contested week and field. It was a real win for us. But as I was saying a bit earlier, I think the artist manager and the label role are very similar because, and the only real difference is you're investing money in building those recordings and in the marketing plans as well. And we ended up repurposing some of the people from our touring team to, be a bit more involved in the A&R side of things and the account side of things and running the business that way. So rather than, we were very fortunate to have some money in the bank from the touring that had happened the year before. So that meant we were able to keep everyone in their jobs and just repurpose the team a little bit. I don't know what we're going to do when things kind of open up again. We'll probably have to hire some more staff, but just very, very grateful that we had that opportunity to build the band as we have and have the success that we've had these last 2 years in particular.
I think Lime Cordiale would make a great anatomy of a band type story for a trade publication, because I remember seeing them showcasing a Big Sound. I think it was 2013. This gives an idea of how long some bands take to incubate, and how this is some of the great projects really are not overnight successes. You have to work it for many, many years to see it come to fruition.
Yeah, I think it was 2012 actually, Lars. Honestly, it's easy to say it in hindsight that it worked. I mean, it's probably not for everyone, and we have some survivorship bias in there that it is such a success story. But I mean, we really kind of just broke it down to the fundamentals, and they had all of that time to build their creative engine over years and years, and they became not just good songwriters, but prolific songwriters, in that they instead of really like writing one song a month, they'd be writing one song every day or two. So we're able to really keep the volume there, and I think that's one thing that can sometimes arrest artists' careers is they'll get a bit of a start, they'll have a song that does well on Triple J or something like that, and then it's unable to just keep that engine turning. So to Ellen's point, artists, I think, being able to go back this year and really build their creative engine, put some songs in the bank and have something to build the next couple of years with, maybe in regular, bi-monthly releases. I think with the way that algorithms are working these days, albums are becoming less of a priority for certain types of artists, and being able to build audiences step by step by step and having the right songs to do so is the thing that, in hindsight has probably, meant that Lime Cordiale, just when they're on the cusp of breaking, they're able to kind of push through that barrier despite not having airplay, despite not really to make ends meet with their music, and just push a little bit further to the point where they're now nominated for the awards they're nominated for. It's pretty amazing, and I can't say that we really planned it that way. We really just tried to fuel that engine as best we could at the time, and believed in the artist, and over the moon with how it's gone.
Cathy, I want to take this right back to when you got started in artist management. I've said it before, it has to be the toughest gig in the music industry. Why did you get involved? Why did you get into artist management?
Crazy. I think my first 15 years was record companies, and there was a frustration at a record company that I wasn't involved in every aspect. So I could only be involved on the record side. And we were heavily involved with touring as well from a record company. But I was in New York working for an artist management, but kind of by accident, and Angus and Joy, who I knew already, basically persisted until I kind of saw them and realized it was probably something pretty special. And that just pushed me over to management. And as much as I get very frustrated with it a lot, I also can't imagine doing anything else. So
politicians say they're addicted to politics. They wake up and they're just hungry to get on with their job. Is that what it's like for you to be an artist manager? You're just hungry to get on with it and make deals and make things happen?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good analogy, actually.
Leon, so I would like to, you have some of Australia's top bands and artists on your roster right now. What is the reality of your day-to-day when people see that you have DMAs, a band who can fill out a 5,000 capacity venue in London on your roster? They think it must be happy days every day. But what's the reality of working with bands who have really they're big gears to grind at this point when they're large acts?
Yeah, it's definitely exciting working with artists who kind of take it up to the next level. But like you said, it brings its own challenges. Yeah, there's a lot to work out. There's a lot to kind of get your head around, a lot of planning, a lot of behind the scenes work. But yeah, like Cathy said, it's one of those things where it's really tough and it's really frustrating, but I also don't know what else I'd want to be doing.
You also were involved in some of the earliest COVID-safe shows this year with DMAs, and I believe some of those shows had to be postponed. What was that whole experience like? Yeah,
so we did 18 shows over 9 nights at the Factory Theatre in Sydney in July, August. And they were great. You know, they were COVID safe. We did them in a slightly different way. They were like stripped back, unplugged shows, which the guys are really, really good with. And yeah, they went really, really well. Like probably better than we thought that they would go. It was funny, towards the second week of those shows was when like the second wave was starting in New South Wales, when I think it was like the Crossroads cluster around then. Yeah. And all these cases were popping up and just kind of zooming in, like closing in on the Factory Theatre in Marrickville. And there was like a coffee shop just down the road, and there was like a shopping center down the road. And we were certain that at some point we were going to have to, shut the shows down. But we were lucky enough that the COVID, we avoided it, and all 18 shows went ahead and went really well. And then we had a couple of nights booked in Brizzy as well, and then that had to be postponed because the border shut.
Yeah, that's so frustrating.
Yeah,
I know I was very much looking forward to seeing one of those shows. Are the COVID safe shows, is this a viable solution for a medium term, or is this just something we need to test and try now and hopefully move on?
They're definitely a bit of a stopgap, if I'm being completely honest. That because of the reduced capacity, it's really tough to make money on those shows. You know, you're playing 1,500 capacity theaters and you're only selling 300 tickets, but you still have all the costs that are associated with hiring out a theater and everything like that. So yeah, look, they're great for the time being, and I think the fans really appreciate it. And I know the band loved playing live shows, but it's definitely not a long-term solution.
Anyone can jump in on this, but artists love to perform. They really love to perform, and they've been ripped away from their audiences this year. there's a few ways we can look at this. Certainly, when I've seen COVID safe shows, it's just it's hard because the interaction isn't there. The audience isn't allowed to stand and cheer and throw drinks around. But I've also noticed something very strange. Some of the artists, they're out of the loop with performing, and some of the artists I've seen have felt nervous going back on stage. Is that something anyone anticipated coming out of this?
No, but I think it's kind of like all of us. For me, who travels like the drop of a hat, I've been nervous to travel, and so I think we can all relate to experiencing, having trouble doing things we've always done. So I can only imagine with artists, it would be similar. I know Alex is about to do 8 shows, and a few of the artists have recommended to her to really warm up and like take it easy with those shows, because she's doing, matinee shows as well, and having not done any shows and then suddenly going in back-to-back shows, which she's not trained up for now. So she has to get used to it.
Yeah. You lose all your match fitness, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll start again.
Do we think virtual gigs are here to stay?
No.
I think there's some place for it.
Yeah.
But yes, I think we've learned some really good things, and some of those massive artists that are playing to millions around the world or curated a bit differently, but ultimately you can't. It's a different experience.
Yeah. You miss the whole tactile element of actually going to a gig and being around people, and it's definitely not the same.
I saw a very interesting piece in the Rolling Stone the other day identifying some of the trends that have come out of COVID. And one of those is artists seem to feel more comfortable reaching out to their fans and asking them to reach into their pockets and help. And I know some of the platforms have helped enable this with certain devices and platforms. Do any of you also get the sense here that artists and their fans are finding a deeper connection in these strange times?
Yeah, I had an interesting experience with Beverly Glenn Copeland, who I manage, who is a 76-year-old man who lives in Eastern Canada, and he had just sold his house in December and was in the process of trying to find and buy a new house in March, and didn't get to the point of being able to buy a new house before everything was being shut down. And so he was essentially about to become homeless with nowhere to go and needing to evacuate the house that he'd sold. And his daughter had set up a GoFundMe account, and they raised about $90,000 in 10 days to help find more permanent housing for Beverly Glenn Copeland. We also went from having, I think, about $100 coming in each month from Patreon to now being something like $2,000 per month consistently. And fans really feeling connected to Glenn and his story, and like they have helped him, through something really, really difficult, and they feel very connected, and this sense of loyalty and kind of ownership of his music and what he's doing. And they're just really grateful to be able to support him as well because of just what they've been able to get from his music and how it's helped them through this time too.
That's awesome.
That's a great story. We need something to warm our hearts in these strange times. Let's talk for a moment about the ARIA awards themselves and what the ARIAs mean to an artist manager and for the artists themselves. Andrew, you're involved in an act who this year is up for, I believe, 8. That must feel good.
Oh, it's so cool. I mean, I know artists like to kind of dismiss the importance of awards, but I think managers like it because we get to kind of celebrate on behalf of our artists as well. And to some extent, it doesn't matter who wins and all that type of stuff, but it's nice for us all to kind of get together and reflect on the achievements of the past year and celebrate some of the acts. And it provides a platform for acts that perhaps might not have seen commercial spotlight before. I guess like the achievement of an act like Maisha having 5 nominations is just wonderful in terms of how that plays into mainstream press as well and the opportunities that brings. And I hope we win at least one, but if not, like it's just nice to kind of be at the party, and hopefully we can actually have a proper kind of gathering with it all next year, because it's always a great night. So,
well, Andrew, I would hope you'd win at least one, because as a journalist, there's almost a headline to write. If it was none for 8, it would be a really bad conversion rate. So good luck.
Tell me about it. Yeah,
Stephen.
Let's erase that bit.
Stephen, do we have you? Are you there? No, we don't have you there. Leon, how are you looking forward to the ARIA Awards, and what does it mean for your artists to be nominated and to perhaps win one of those pointy trophies?
Yeah, look, I think it's an amazing honor to be nominated. And I think deep down artists know just how important it is and how cool it is to be nominated. I don't know what to expect this year though, with it being virtual. Yeah, it's definitely going to be strange, but I think it'll be cool. I know a few bands are playing, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think we're going to have a barbecue and have a few beers and enjoy it.
I do wonder how the award will be presented, because typically at the ARIA Awards, the award doesn't go into the hands of the artist for the rest of the night. It appears later. So I wonder how much of a lapse there'll be from the performance until you actually get to play with that thing. But it's all very exciting. Cathy, you've been involved in quite a few ARIA Awards over the years. What are you thinking about this year?
Well, obviously it's odd, and we were a bit disappointed at first that it was going to be virtual, but there's a few of us, Alex's team and a kind of extended team are getting together in a bar, and we've actually decided it could be more fun than ever. So, and then we started to think it might stay like this. So, because we're kind of quite excited by that concept now. So,
Stephen, do we have you online? Are you there? We may have lost Stephen. I would have loved to have gauged Stephen's thoughts on this year's ARIA Awards, but I will ask Ellen what you're looking forward to in late November.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to everyone being able to watch together from home. I think it would be nice to see everyone recreate their own red carpet moments from home and just be able to, get into the spirit of it.
Let's look ahead a little bit. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I'm glad I don't have to try and convince all my friends to get me an invite to the various parties that I feel like I'm missing out on every year. And running around to them, I can just like hang out with my friends, and
I know it feels like it's got much more chills and fun. So I feel like this could be a good pivot.
Yeah, you always feel like you're missing out on that guest list or something, and it's why I got in the music industry, is to get on the guest list, and then there's another one you can't get on. So, bloody hell! None of that this year.
We'll be drinking beers on the couch at home.
Exactly.
So one or two big picture questions, and then we'll have to tap out. But let's look ahead let's try to look a year ahead. As artist managers, what are the big challenges moving forward?
I think just keeping everything going until at some stage we can get back to normalcy, and whatever normalcy looks like. I do think we have learned some really interesting things. I've been working remotely for a long time now, and I'm very pleased to see everyone else working remotely. And I think there's a lot of benefits to that. There's access internationally for some of our artists without traveling and spending a lot of money. So I hope that we remember a lot of these things and don't just go back exactly how we were.
Leon.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the toughest thing is going to be trying to work out when full scale touring can resume, and trying to sort of time release schedules and whatnot with that. I think it's a lot of it's going to be a guessing game, and obviously out of our hands. I think that for me, that's going to be the biggest challenge.
Andrew, what are the big challenges in the months and the year ahead?
I think international development for Australian artists is going to be really hard. Before we can get back over there and tour. Like, I think there's a huge opportunity, as it might have been said at the start, for Australian artists to really occupy the top slots on the festivals here in Australia. And I think there's a hunger for audiences to get out and see kind see live music again when we're fortunate enough to have it open. But in the case of Lime, we were in the middle of a tour in the US when we had to come home. We were in the middle of recording over there. I think we had 7 tours internationally booked for this year, and that's just put a pause on it. At the same time, as Cathy was saying, we've developed all these new skills in how to speak to our audiences internationally and perhaps adopt like radio campaigns or press campaigns, but it really hasn't been the same without the artist being in market and being able to tour. So trying to restart all of the investment that has gone into the acts up until this point, up until the start of COVID, is really tough. And it's also going to be scary to get back into those markets that might still have the virus hanging around, and before we're in a really, vaccine, positive environment. So I think trying to maintain and continue to build those international markets despite not being there is probably the main thing that we're really thinking a lot about.
Ellen, what are your thoughts on the challenges that lay away?
I think there's probably going to be a lot of music to come out as things start to settle down, and whether we see a vaccine sometime soon, as people have kind of put things on hold. And I think that will be exciting, but also a challenge for people who are releasing music to kind of, compete with all of that stuff going on. And I think another challenge is just making sure that we don't try and go too hard too soon when things start to come back to normal and end up in a position where we might have just end up being a little bit burnt out by trying to achieve too much too quickly.
Look, I'll wrap things up because I think we are at the hour mark. And ain't it sweet that we're not doing this live? So my guests, thank you so much for participating in this panel. I hope this time next year we'll get together and have a chat about how awful last year was and how great 2021 is. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Lars.
Thanks, Lars.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, Lars.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Good luck.